Welcome to the Fantasy Football Now podcast on FanStream Sports, powered by DSP Media. I am Chad Rink. Follow me on X at Chad Ocho Rinko. You can also find the website fanstreamsports.com to get all the podcasts here on the station. FanStream Sports app is also available on Apple and Android for around-the-clock programming on the go. You can also join the FanStream Sports Facebook group so you can interact with the host of all the shows and also with other fans. Jeff is not with us today. He is on vacation, but you can follow him, Jeff Fitoff, at Fit Happens on the X. So we got a lot to get into, cover a little bit of the Thursday night game, go into some injuries for this upcoming week, go game by game, talk about some of the matchups, and then we'll do a little DFS at the end. So I am flying solo tonight. Hopefully it's not going to be an issue for those that are Jeff Fitoff lovers of the show. I am sorry, it's just me tonight. So let's kind of really recap quickly the Eagles-Vikings game last night. Eagles end up winning that game. They end up winning it pretty handily. They looked like the better team. DeAndre Swift, if you were a DeAndre Swift owner, I hope that you played him. With Gainwell being out, Swift was the play. There was also, if you had Rashad Penny, there was the chance that he may get some action. He did. It was very little. It was in the second half. He did not look great, but DeAndre Swift looked really good. And if you are the Eagles, I don't know how you go back to Kenneth Gainwell or even Boston Scott after this. DeAndre Swift is their most talented running back. He's their best running back. You just need to go with him the rest of the way. So I think Rashad Penny is still just a hold right now because I think he's probably the second most talented back there. I know he just doesn't look good after that injury from last year. I don't think he can really still move and cut as well as he used to, but down the line, if you can hold him, I think I would at least for a little bit. But he is droppable if you need a roster spot. But DeAndre Swift looks like the guy. So if you have him, congratulations on keeping him. Hopefully you started him last night. Vikings, it was the same old. They have been. Kirk Cousins throws for 300 yards again. Looks good. Gets his receivers involved. Hawkinson scored twice. Addison scored once. Jefferson should have scored, but they called it back. And it's that stupid rule where if you fumble outside, goes outside the end zone when you're on offense, then the other team gets at the 20. So it's a stupid rule. But Jefferson still had a huge game. I think he may have had 10 receptions. I know he went over 120 again. Cousins, he's going to be, if he keeps doing this, if they can't run the ball with Alexander Madison, Cousins could be a top 5 quarterback. The way he has to throw and with the weapons he has. So Addison also looked good. If you have Alexander Madison, I'd be getting a little worried just for the fact he does not look good. I just don't think they've had to run the ball too much or really tried to run the ball. And I don't really think there's anybody behind Madison that's better, that's just going to overtake him. The issue would be is if they bring in like a Kareem Hunt or a Leonard Fournette in that backfield as well. I know Devonta Smith looked good, had a huge play on their first drive, I believe for like 56 yards, and then he scored that 60-yard touchdown as well. They didn't really get Goddard involved too much. I know A.J. Brown was complaining on the sidelines with Jalen Hurts when they were up by 2 scores, and he had, I think, 3 receptions. So it's one of those alpha male wide receiver things where they want the ball. They need to get the ball. They want to get involved in the offense, even if the team's winning. So I don't think it's a huge deal. However, it could be something down the line if they're trying to force the ball to Brown or if he continues to complain like this on games where they're winning, because that should be the most important thing for him. Because if it's a close game, they don't try to run the ball as much. They're going to try to get A.J. Brown involved. But again, it's just with matchups. So Jalen Hurts does Jalen Hurts things, scores 2 1-yard pushes in the end zone. So this is what you draft Jalen Hurts for high as a quarterback, because he can get in those they're just going to sneak him in with the push anytime they're at the 1. and he also can get in from inside the 5. He's got the rushing upside. So overall, the game was kind of how I thought it would go. I was really hoping like maybe Penny might have gotten a little bit more run, looked good, but he did not. So takeaway is DeAndre Swift should be the guy going forward. You never know with the NFL, though. It could be something where a team's just like, nope, we're just going to keep rotating guys out. So that could happen too. But I would be happy if I was a Swift owner right now. So that was just a quick recap of the Thursday night game. I'm in one league where I was playing against Cousins and Devonta Smith, so I'm already in the hole in that league. So, but that happens sometimes. So, just some quick injury updates that we're looking to. The big one is Austin Eckler, and it looks like he is going to be doubtful for Sunday's game this week. So, it looks like, and if you need any kind of injury updates and really the breakdown of injuries on the games, I would follow the Fantasy Doctors on X. Also on their YouTube channel as well, the Fantasy Doctors. They do a tremendous job of talking about the injury, breaking it down, showing you what happens, and giving you a pretty good time frame of when they should be out. So they review the footage and give you their best guess of what it could be. So with Eckler, they think it is a high ankle sprain. So it's pretty sure he's not going to be there this week. If it is a high ankle sprain, I would imagine he could be out for multiple weeks. So if you picked up Joshua Kelly, you obviously are probably going to play him in Eckler's spot. If you have Eckler and are able to get Kelly, if not, you got to find someone else in for Eckler this week. So he's going to miss this week, most likely, as he's already listed as doubtful. He has not practiced. I know his agent just passed away, and he was at the funeral today, which is another reason why he wasn't at the practice. But I even if that didn't happen, I don't think he would have practiced today. So Austin Eckler going to be out this week, and I would imagine for multiple weeks as well. We talked about the Darren Waller injury on our last podcast. So with that, it is this hamstring injury. And it sounds like it's something that he has dealt with for quite a while. I know he missed some time last year due to it. And what happens is, again, if you go check out the better details on the explanation of this, but with a hamstring injury, if it continues to get injured, it can build up scar tissue, and that scar tissue can then kind of rub or push the tendon into more muscle, bone, and it just kind of gets irritated where it feels like something's going on, and even if it's not, it just can continue to reoccur. So Waller is one of those where I think they're going to give him, I think Wednesday is going to be his off day in practice, where they're just giving him that day off for rest. I think it's just something he's just going to be dealing with all year. So if you have Waller, I would just play him and just monitor it, how bad it gets. And if he's got to miss time, then look other places for your tight end. I would pick up, if you have Waller as your tight end and your only tight end, I'd go try to find another tight end. Chig Okonkwo is a good one to pick up because I think we're talking about DeAndre Hopkins here in a second. I don't think Luke Musgrave's probably still on the waiver wire, but if he is, I would grab him. Jake Ferguson's another one too. We talked about Hayden Hurst as well. Hunter Henry, those types of guys, just somebody to have on the roster because it could be something Waller down the line. It could just get re-aggravated. He misses some time, but I would still roll with him because it's just one of those things. He's going to play through it and he could be fine. And then all of a sudden he's not. So I would still just roll him. You drafted him. He's not showing any signs that it's causing him to play bad. I know there's just the one game that was a weird game that they were just down so big against the Cowboys. So I would stay with Waller, but I would go grab another tight end. Aaron Jones and Brandon Cooks have been a no practice all week, so it is unlikely either of them would play. I think there's still a chance. They're both veterans, especially Jones being in that system in Green Bay. He has a chance he could play, but I doubt they're going to try to rush him back, knowing they have Dylan that can fill in for him. So I doubt Aaron Jones plays, and I doubt Brandon Cooks plays. But even if they do, they haven't practiced all week, so they may not get as much run. or they may not be as effective. So if you have Dylan, I would be starting him this week, as they've got a good matchup against Atlanta. So, Dylan's a start for me this week. With Cooks out, I don't think it's really not going to elevate too many people. You got Gallup there, who could, get a couple extra looks, but I wouldn't go starting Gallup or anything. I think it just helps CeeDee Lamb, and then it helps Jake Ferguson out as well. So if you have Cooks, just monitor that, if he's going to play or not. I know Jacoby Myers is out. There's other guys there, Renfro, I believe, with Vegas, but I'm not too excited on who the second wide receiver is on a Jimmy Garoppolo led team. So if you have Myers, you're not playing him. I wouldn't if you have these other guys. I'm not too excited about playing any of the wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3s in Vegas, just because Myers is out. Christian Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, both questionable, so not sure. I think Hopkins is I'd be leaning he will probably play, but he may not. I think Christian Watson's probably more likely to not play, but I would just monitor both situations. And if they're both in, just, depending what your roster is, if you need them, I would play them. But if you have other guys that are in good matchups, you may want to sit them because, again, they may be limited in their reps and they just may not be as effective as well. But those two guys are still probably going to be more game time decision. I'm recording this on Friday evening, so we'll probably get more on Saturday on those two. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is Puka Nacua. He was the waiver wire darling this week. So if you picked him up, I assumed you were looking to start him, play him. He has an oblique injury, so it looks like he was limited in practice today. Sounds like he is going to play unless there's a setback. I just don't know how effective he is going to be. They are playing the Niners this week, and I was not high on him, picking him up just because he's had one game, and it was an offense with the Rams that going into the season nobody was high on. So now we're all of a sudden excited because this rookie got 15 targets. And now he's got the oblique injury, so he's not a big kid. So one other hit could actually get him out too. So I would monitor Nacua if you need him, obviously, and he's playing. He's the main guy Stafford's looking at. But I don't think he's going to have nearly as good a week as he had. If he had 2 or 3 catches for 30, 40 yards, that wouldn't surprise me. I think they're trying to get Van Jefferson more involved as well. They got Tutu Atwell. So Nacua is one to watch as well because he could miss. And I know if people picked him up, they were looking to play him. I have one. I don't like doing a whole lot of start sits before the week unless people reach out to me or Jeff and we can talk about it because I don't know what people's lineups are like. But I did have one guy that reached out to me, and it's an interesting one. So it's a super flex. So he's got a 2 QB league. He's got Mahomes, and then he's got Geno, and then he's got Purdy. So he was thinking, and he's playing against a guy that's got McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. So he was asking, should you play Purdy in case the Niners go off? Having Purdy could offset some of the points, which is a legit kind of concern, and even a strategy too to play if you're playing a guy that that has a couple of receivers. Maybe play the quarterback because if they go off, then you'll at least recoup some of the points. It's interesting because Purdy, I think, has got the higher floor. If you look at his 6 games last year, he averaged between 15 and 21. He only had the one game over 20, and it was 21, but he didn't have a game that was lower than 15. So he's pretty steady, going to get you probably 15 to 20 points every week. But I don't think he can really have that kind of spike week at all. Where Geno, on the other hand, I think he is kind of more of a boom bust kind of guy. Last year, he was just so good. And he had, I think, 5 games that were over 20 points. So I think I would lean Geno in this week because I think the matchup the matchups are about the same. I just think with the Niners playing the Rams, they could get a big lead. The defense could score a touchdown, and then they're just going to try to run the clock out. So Purdy may not get as many passing opportunities as Geno's going to do with Geno playing Detroit. I think that's one of the games. That's one of the games I do like when we talk about DFS to kind of pick from. I think that could be a shootout. It is the second highest projected team game total from Vegas, so they expect it to be a high scoring game. I don't think either team's going to really run away with it. I think Seattle's going to bounce back, and I think Geno's got just as good of weapons in the passing game as Purdy does. So I would lean Geno just because I think he's got the higher boom upside where he can get you 25 to 30, I think, with those receivers in a high scoring environment that game is, where the Niners game is around 45. And it's a couple more points higher, but I can see the Niners, like I said, just trying to run the clock out at the end. If they get up like 27-3 at the end of the half, and then, they're not going to try to push the ball too much, I wouldn't think. And then again, you got McCaffrey, so he could run in 2 touchdowns. Defense can get 1. So, Purdy's probably going to get you 240, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's probably what Purdy is going to do most weeks for you. And I think they're both probably just as likely to run in a touchdown. So there's no real rushing upside with either of them. I just like Geno in a game that I think is going to be competitive. And so he's going to throw the ball more. And plus, if you look at last week's game with Seattle, they had 5 minutes and 6 seconds of possession in the second half of that game last week. So I think there was 14 total plays that they had. So he didn't get a whole lot of opportunities. They had a couple really nice drives. First 2 drives, they got the 12-play drive, kicked the field goal. Then they had a 7 or 8-play drive, got the touchdown on. So I think there's going to be more of that. I just think that I don't know what happened with that game with the Rams, but they just didn't get it going in the second half, and they didn't have they had 5 minutes of possession. So that was a weird thing. I don't think that's going to happen this week. So I would roll Geno in that one. All right, so let's kind of look into some of these matchups. I'll talk about some of the players that I like, and then I'll kind of roll that into some DFS plays that I like this week. So we'll talk about some DFS plays as well. Take a drink because I'm the only one talking. So we'll go KC Jacksonville is one of the bigger games. It is the highest implied total at 51 for the week. And it should be a competitive game. The spread's only Chiefs favored by 3.5. So it should be a competitive game. Jags looked good last week. The Chiefs did not, but that was due to a lot of drops. So it looks like Kelsey will be back, it looks like. So obviously if you have Kelsey, you are playing him. Obviously Mahomes is playing. So if you have any of the receivers, I have a league where I've got Sky Moore in a league. I've got a league where I've got Justin Ross in another league. So with those, luckily I don't really need either of them, but I'm still kind of holding off and waiting to see what kind of usage they get, just because it looks like Rashee Rice got a lot of uses last week. I think they're still going to try to get the ball to Kadarius Toney because he's their most electric player if he can catch the ball. So if you have Chiefs receivers, I still think I'm holding them. I'm not starting any of them, even in a good matchup like this, because I think it's going to be the Travis Kelce show. And I think they can run the ball pretty well in the Jags too. So you might see a little bit more Isaiah Pacheco this week. But I do like the Jags too. I think Christian Kirk have a bounce back week. He was pretty much invisible last week. I think he had 1 reception. So again, Calvin Ridley looks like he did not miss a step being out for a year. So you're firing him up. I like Lawrence at the quarterback spot. I think they're going to have to score points. And I know they have Etienne and Bigsby and they can run the ball, but I think the Chiefs are going to be able to do a pretty good job stopping the run. And then it's going to be up to Lawrence and the receiving core. So I like all the Jags receiving pieces in this game. And then obviously I'm always going to like Mahomes and Kelsey in every game. So that's the big game this week everyone's going to be looking at. Another guy I think is going to be good for a bounce back is Josh Allen. Buffalo is hosting the Raiders. Bills are 8.5-point favorites. and it's a 46.5-point team total, so it looks to be a high-scoring game. I think the Bills bounce back. I'm not impressed with the Raiders' defense, and I just think Josh Allen's gonna have a huge week this week. Same with Diggs. Gabe Davis is one I have not been high on just because he had that 4-touchdown playoff game. He just never impressed me that much, but he could be in line. I really like in this game. I like Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and I do think James Cook is a good play this week as well, because again, the Bills I think will be up and they'll rely more on the run, and they just like to get the ball to Cook, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. So again, that was a hit I hit on in the betting realm last week on Monday night, was that James Cook at plus money. It was like a plus 110 for over 2.5 receptions, and he smashed that in the first half. He had 4. So Cook is a good play. I like all the Buffalo pieces. Kincaid, Knox, they both were on the field at the same time. So, I think you can play either of them, because I think they can each score a touchdown any week with this offense. I don't like any of the Raiders. I think Tre'Davious White looked good last week. He will probably be covering Devontae Adams. So Adams is always going to play. You're always going to play your studs. Don't sit a guy because you don't like the matchup. Certain guys are matchup proof. Like if you were thinking about sitting Jefferson last night because of Darius Slay, there's just guys that are matchup proof. Your studs, you got to play your studs. So if you have Adams, you're going to play Adams. And they're going to have to pass the ball a lot without Jacoby Myers there, so he's going to get a ton of targets. So he may not even have a great game and still end up with like 8 for 90 and maybe a touchdown. So you're starting Adams, but I think the Bills kind of roll in that game. Though another game I really like, especially for DFS, we'll talk about at the end, is the Seattle at Detroit game. That is a 5.5-point spread. I think it can be closer than that. Again, it's got the second highest total on the slate. I think my favorite, I like Goff on his side. I like St. Brown. I really like Sam Laporta this week as well. Seattle does not do a good job against the tight ends, so I like that stack in DFS when we talk about later. I think Gibbs. I think you see a Jahmyr Gibbs game this week. It just seems like they want to get him more involved, and then I think probably because DeAndre Swift went off, Dan Campbell just seems like the kind of guy's like, all right, I see you, DeAndre Swift, and is going to give Jahmyr Gibbs as many opportunities as he can to shine, just to show them, hey, this is why we drafted him, and to kind of to one up DeAndre Swift. So I think Gibbs is in line for a big game. Montgomery can fall in for a couple, short touchdowns as well. So I like all the Detroit offense pieces. I also like all the Seattle offense pieces. I even like, Kenneth Walker. I think they probably get him more involved, try to, get, you only have 5 minutes of possession in the second half. You're probably going to try to, hey, let's, try to get some drives going, and that involves the running game. If they get the running game going early and they can do the play action pass, it's going to open up things for Metcalf, Lockett, and JSN. I like all of them as well. So I like both sides. I think this game, I would take the over by a lot. I think this game, both teams could get over 27. So that's a big game. If you have any guys in these games, I'm playing those guys. Even if you have a guy like Josh Reynolds, I think can have a sneaky decent game if you're weak at a receiver spot or a flex spot due to injuries. Josh Reynolds is a guy I think you can pick up. And I think he can be pretty productive. He looked pretty decent last week as well. Baltimore-Cincinnati is kind of an interesting game, the way Cincinnati played last week. I think, again, they bounce back. Baltimore does have a good D, so this could be one of those rough AFC North battles where it's just kind of a slugfest. There's not a ton of points, so I think the Bengals do bounce back. I think the Bengals can win this game, but I think it's going to be close, but I don't think this game is going to be as high scoring as the books have. They have it at 46.5. I just think the Ravens defense is pretty legit with Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen in the middle. They can get to the quarterback and they can cover some guys. But I would be on, if you have Burrow, obviously play him. I think Chase can have a big game. But I think they might be able to stop Mixon. I'm not high on Mixon today for this Sunday. And with Baltimore, I think, again, if you have Lamar, you got to play Lamar because he can kind of just go off using his legs any game. And then Zay Flowers looked good. He looked good, and I think he's going to be the wide receiver one there. They're going to get him in space. So I would be starting Zay Flowers as well. As it goes with the backfield, I would stay away if I could if you have Edwards or Hill. I would lean Edwards just because I think he's going to be the first, second down back. And I think they can still use him in the red zone and at the goal line. I just think he's proven himself more. He's averaged over 5 yards a carry his entire career. Where Justice Hill last week, he had 8 carries for 9 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. So never been a big Justice Hill fan, even coming out of college. So I would lean Edwards, but I just don't think this game is going to be as high scoring as they think it is. But so I would still just play Jackson, Zay Flowers. Obviously Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow will be my guys. If you need to put Mixon in, obviously you can do that because he's their only back. So just volume alone, he can get into a 15 to 20 point fantasy week this week. You got the Chargers at the Titans. This is one where, if you have Eckler and you picked up Joshua Kelly, or if you just picked up Joshua Kelly, he should get the lion's share of the load in the running back and that backfield. He has no one really to compete with. And I think the last time it was late, like it was either like 16 or 17 in 2001. Eckler missed a game. Joshua Jackson came in, not the actor. Is it Joshua Jackson? It's Jackson. I think it was Jackson, whatever the Jackson that was their running back. Came in and he ended up with like 27 fantasy points. So he had a huge game. So a lot of times whoever comes in and is in for Eckler can have that opportunity. I'm not sold on Joshua Kelly. I think the Titans defense is good. So it could be tough sledding for him. But again, it's a volume play. I think Josh Kelly could end up with like 20 to 24 just carries alone, a handful of targets, and he could get a touchdown or two. So he's a play. I just think it could be tough for him with that Titans D. But again, it's a volume play. That offense, I'm firing up. If you have Joshua Kelly, firing him up. Titans D looked good against the Saints last week. So I don't know if the Chargers are going to be putting up 34 like they did against the Dolphins. But Chargers offense is one. If I have those guys, I'm playing them. And on the Titans side, obviously Derrick Henry, you're going to always play him. And I just monitor Hopkins. I think Chig Okonkwo, the tight end, is a good play if you have him. You're deciding between like him and some other secondary tight end guys. I think he could have a decent game today, especially if Hopkins is out. Bears are in Tampa. This is a brutal game. This got a 40.5 point total. I think this is one of those games that actually could shoot out because I don't think. Well, I know the Bears defense is not good. I don't think the Bucks defense is great. The Bucks have talent around them, and I think the Bears can move the ball if they just are coached properly. So this is a game. It's a weird game. I am starting Fields if you have him, just because Fields has that slate breaking, game breaking ability where he could drop 40 in a game. So I'm starting Fields if I have him, unless you happen to have someone like a Mahomes or somebody like that, then obviously not. But I'm starting Fields. I'm still starting DJ Moore. I think they're going to look and say, hey, he got 2 targets. We need to figure something out and scheme more for him. So I don't mind DJ Moore. I'm still going to hold off on the backfield unless you have to play one. I would lean Roschon Johnson because I just think he's slowly going to get to that 60%, 70% of the carries and the snaps in that backfield. But I would kind of hold off on both right now just because I'm not sure how it's going to go. And I think Tampa can stop the run pretty decently. But I'd start Fields and Moore on the Bear side. Tampa side, obviously Edwards, Godwin, both good plays. I like Rachaad White on a bounce back game today because of how bad the Bears defense is, and they're going to have to keep an eye on the two receivers. So I like Rachaad White with a bounce back game, so I don't mind playing him at all. Green Bay, Atlanta, talked about that. I like Green Bay's defense is good. On Atlanta, I am starting Algier. I would start Bijan, and that is about it. I don't like anybody else. I think the Packers can handle Drake London. They don't use Pitts properly. So, if you have Pitts, you're probably going to play him because you probably don't have a tight end that has the upside of him. But just know, like, you drafted Kyle Pitts, you should know what you're expecting from Kyle Pitts. On the Green Bay side, obviously Dillon. If Aaron Jones is not there, I'm firing up A.J. Dillon if I have him. I do like Jordan Love. I don't think the Atlanta defense is great. And then it's just different to see, like, because if Watson's in, if they got Watson, Dobbs, I believe, is in, and then Musgrave. So I like Dillon best on the Green Bay side. I just like the running on both these sides. This game, I think, could be a little bit lower scoring as well, especially if Watson misses. So, obviously, you're playing. You're playing the studs again if you have them. If you have Bijan, you're playing him. Indy Houston game, like if you don't have to play anybody in this game, I would not. I actually think Houston might win this game. Looks like Richardson's back. They said he had a concussion, but it didn't seem like it was. It might have been like just a knee or something. So Richardson is one, like especially in a super flex, or if you just waited on quarterbacks, take a chance on, especially against a team like Houston. And him and Pittman connected pretty well. So Pittman's one I don't mind. He had 8 receptions last week, so I think that combination can bode well here. I don't mind Dameon Pierce running the ball. I just don't know what the Houston passing game is going to look like every week. I think Stroud's going to be accurate. I just don't know how good those receivers really are. So I would stay away from the Houston side, except for maybe Pierce. Obviously, the Texans receivers are guys you drafted late, so hopefully you're not counting on those guys to be every week contributors. You just got some guys like Tank Dell or Nico Collins to kind of have like bye-week fill-in. So this game I'm really kind of staying away from, but if you have a little bit of Richardson and Pittman, I don't mind. And obviously Dameon Pierce, I think he still could get a good 20, 24 touches as well. Niners-Rams, I am not sold on the Rams. I think the Niners will be able to shut them down. I think the Niners are going to do Niners things where McCaffrey, you're playing him. I know everyone got excited about Brandon Ayuk, but I think Ayuk's actually a better receiver than Samuel. But I think with this offense, I think between Ayuk, Samuel, and Kittle, I think you'll have these games just rotate between the three of these guys. I just think Purdy might get to the point where, hey, this is a good matchup. We'll be able to exploit Kittle over the middle, or hey, we're able to Deebo Samuel on reverses, get him open. So if you have Niners, obviously you'd be playing them every week as well. I just think this game could blow out. And then I think the second half, there could be limited pass plays with that Niners offense. A game that I'm staying away from, unless you just have Saquon Barkley, is the Giants at the Cardinals. The Giants look bad. I don't think they're that bad. I think the Cowboys defense is that good. Arizona looked better than I thought they would, but it's Joshua Dobbs. So I know Connor has got a slight injury. I think he'll probably play. I think it's just his calf, so I think he'll probably play. With the Giants, Barkley, obviously you're going to play him every week. And with Danny Jones, I don't know. With the Waller injury, and then his receivers just a bunch of like 2-3 receiver kind of guys, and there's not really a wide receiver one alpha there. So I'd give Jones a minute to maybe see if he's going to turn it around. But this game's just awful. I'm not watching this game. I'm telling you that much right now, even if I had Barkley in a league. Jets, Cowboys, it's going to be, I think, a defensive struggle. And not just because Zach Wilson is one of the quarterbacks, but I think these could be two of the best defenses in the league. I think the Jets are the best defense in the league. And, Dak's prone for interceptions. You take Brandon Cooks out of the mix. And I think the Jets are going to be able to stop the run. Pollard's not a big guy to be able to just pound. I think Sauce Gardner can shut down CeeDee Lamb. I know he won't follow him because I know he didn't follow Diggs around. But I think that Jets defense is good enough to kind of keep the Cowboys in check. And I don't know how good the Cowboys offense is going to be because we didn't really have to see them too much last week because the defense and special teams did it all. So I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. However, like CeeDee Lamb, yes, you're playing him. Breece Hall, I would play him just because, how he looked last week. He had 2 carries for, I think, over 105 yards on 2 carries. So he's just an elite talent. You're going to play him even against a tough defense like that. I kind of think the way Hall looked last week, Dalvin Cook's kind of done. He's still going to get some run early on because I think they want to ease Hall back in. But if you drafted Dalvin Cook hoping that you had maybe a half a year with him, that I think that's done the way Hall played last week. I obviously would still keep Cook because with Hall's injury, he could get re-injured. Then you got Cook's going to be the main guy there, and with Wilson at the helm, they're just going to run the ball all the time. So that game, I would start Hall, Garrett Wilson. Obviously, I still will because I think he'll get the targets. CeeDee Lamb, and obviously Pollard too. But I'm not expecting a whole lot out of Pollard. So if you can pivot off him, I would. And then you got the last 4 o'clock game is the Commanders at the Broncos. Another game I'm not too keen on. If you have Russ or Howell, you probably got them at their quarterback too. If you're in a super flex, they're both startable. I just think this game is going to be. This game is the second lowest on the slate behind the game we just talked about, the Jets Cowboys. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. So if you don't have to play these guys, I would not. I just don't. I think it's going to be an ugly game, and you don't know. Yeah, Brian Robinson could get a touchdown. Javonte Williams get a touchdown. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of big fantasy scores coming from this Washington-Denver game. So if you don't have to play these guys, I wouldn't. Sunday night game, Miami at New England. This could be a shootout. I love Ramondre Stevenson this week because of what the Dolphins gave up on the ground to the Chargers last week. They gave up over 200 yards rushing between Eckler and Kelly. I think Ramondre Stevenson can just go off. And Mac Jones, I don't like Mac Jones. I don't think he's that good a quarterback, but he looked good last week. So I think the Patriots can move the ball with that offense, and I think they'll run Stevenson into the ground. Stevenson could have 28 carries in this game, especially if the Patriots keep it close and get ahead. I do like the Miami side too with Tua, Waddle, and Hill. I'm going to like them every week, and you should too. But Stevenson's one I really think could have a huge game, and this could be a big shootout as well. I think, and wouldn't even surprise me if the Patriots win because I think they have the better defense. And then you got the 2 Monday night games. I love double Monday Night Football. I would love if they did away with, even though this Thursday night game was good because they had 2 good teams, and it's still early in the season. As we get later in the season, these Thursday night games get horrible. So, but I do love Monday night game, double Monday night games, and if they could just move a Thursday night game to make it double Monday night every week, that would be phenomenal, but they won't. First one, you got the Saints at Carolina. The spread is only Saints by 3. I know this isn't a betting show, but I would lay the points with the Saints this week. Carolina is not good. And I think the Saints probably win double digits. So I like everybody on the Saints side. If you have Miles Sanders, you can play him. I'm not touching this Panthers passing game at all. I just think it's not good. But if you have Sanders, you can play him. But I just think the Saints roll in this one. And then the final game, which is an earlier game, it's not a late game. I think it's like an 8:15 game, is the Browns and the Steelers. So it's a big AFC North rivalry. It's going to be smash mouth. it's a little bit. It's going to be not as good, I don't think, because Deontay Johnson is out. So I'm not sure how well the Steelers are going to be able to move the ball, because that Browns defense is legit. They looked great last week, and I don't know any offensive line that's going to be able to stop Myles Garrett getting in there and wreaking havoc. So, if you have George Pickens, I think I would play him, just because I think he could get a lot of targets. I like Freiermuth because if they're getting in the backfield, Pickett can use him as dump-offs. I still would stay away from the running game here, just because I'm not sure. I think it's going to be a 50-50 split, and I think that the Steelers are going to get down again early, and they're going to kind of abandon the run. I would lean Jaylen Warren a little bit more, because I think they'll get him more involved in the passing game, and I think he's the better running back. On the Brown side, obviously Nick Chubb. He's their offense that goes through him. Watson still does not look like the Watson of old. So if you have Watson, if you could start somebody else that's in a better matchup, I would, until he can kind of show his old self. He still runs a lot, though, so he can still get you 40, 50 yards on the ground. But I don't know if I can start him yet. And then obviously Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore I like as well. So those are all the games, kind of the breakdown. Who I like, what are some of these higher games that we're looking at. And if you have any questions, shoot it to myself on the X at Chad Ochorinco. Jeff is in Vegas, but I know he will respond to any tweets about any questions as well. He's talking about maybe do one tomorrow, him from Vegas. So we'll see. It depends on if he's lost all his money yet or not. So real quick before we head out, just don't really want to talk DFS. I like talking DFS. I like playing DFS for NFL, and I think a lot of people do. So I just want to get a little bit of that going on. So again, we talked about if you're doing a slate like this Sunday slate, it's going to have the 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock game. So it'll have I'm missing those 3, 4, so it'll be 12 games on the slate. So what you're looking for, the games that could shoot out, and then stacking that, to having a main stack of that game, of whatever game you want, and then having a secondary stack of another game that could shoot out. So the one game I really like, obviously, if you do Mahomes Kelsey, it's going to take up a lot of salary, because Mahomes is 8,300 top quarterback, and then Kelsey is top tight end at 76. So you're talking, you have like 15.9 of your $50,000 salary. So I wouldn't go there, because I think a lot of people are going to probably go there because Kelsey's back. But maybe they won't because of how expensive it is. So the build I like is to use the Seattle-Detroit game, and then using either side. I like using the Goff side of it and pairing Goff with St. Brown and Laporta. I don't even mind throwing Gibbs in there instead of one of those guys, but I really think I'm going Goff, and I'm definitely going to probably be going Sun God, and then either using Laporta or Gibbs on that. I think I would use Laporta because there's a couple of running backs I like that I want to get in over Gibbs. So Goff is 6,200, Geno's 59. So relatively priced quarterbacks where you can end up getting some higher priced studs in there. So I don't mind either side. If I'm doing the Geno side, I think I'm going to go JSN is my main guy, because he's the cheapest of the three receivers. And if I double stack it, I will probably go DK Metcalf. So I do a Metcalf, JSN, Geno build. And I would, if I'm doing that, I am running it back with St. Brown. Probably not Laporta on that one. So I like that game. That's my main stack. I will probably do some with both. If I do like a 20 max game, I will probably use multiple quarterbacks. I'll use Goff. I'll use Geno. I'll probably have one or two with Mahomes in as well. But that game's the game I really like. I don't mind the Chiefs-Jags game, and especially if you want to do a Trevor Lawrence stack with Lawrence, Ridley, and you can throw Kirk in there and then run it back with Kelsey. that's a decent one to do if you go the Mahomes Kelsey route, run it back with Ridley. That's not a bad secondary stack. It just gets expensive with that. And then I think if there was another game, maybe a sneaky game to stack, I think it could be that Bears Bucks game, or even I like that Bears Bucks games better than like the Packers Falcons game, just because I think that I don't like either defense, and I think both teams can score, and they both got guys. So on that one, I would probably do a Fields with DJ Moore and just do like a one, just a one receiver stack with Fields. Or I would even go naked Fields, just go Fields by himself, and then run it back with like Godwin, White, Godwin, Evans. You can even throw a Baker stack in there if you would want to. And see, I ran a Baker one last week. It just didn't pan out because they didn't score. They looked decent, but they just didn't score as much. So, but I'd probably stay away from that. But I wouldn't mind using the Bears Bucks as maybe a secondary stack, or even that Packers Falcons game as a secondary stack. Maybe using Musgrave as a quarterback, throwing Bijan in there as well. So there's a lot of things you can do, play with there. Defense, obviously. I would never really spend up on defense, because a lot of times if you get like the Niners, you're spending $4,100 on a defense, or even the Bills. The Bills are at $3,700 this week, which is still too expensive spending on defense. They're playing the Raiders. I think that might be the most popular defense, and you really don't want the most popular defense most times, because defenses are just a crapshoot. It may pan out, but if it doesn't, you can get yourself different by just getting another defense. And I like going below $3,000 on a defense and just trying to hope that maybe they get a special teams or a defensive touchdown. So of the defenses that are below 3,000, I do like the Jets at 2,700. I know they're playing the Cowboys, but Dak is prone to throw interceptions, and they could get a pick six out of that. That Jets defense is good. They can get some sacks as well. And then I don't mind a Titans defense, just because I think they can keep that game close. But the only other ones that that really below that, maybe the Ravens against the Bengals at 28, just because you want teams that can maybe get some turnovers, get to the quarterback on that. So a couple like lower priced guys, like tight ends, are always ones you can go low on. If you're looking for like a low end wide receiver, like I said, JSN is one. I don't mind Christian Kirk, even to throw in there as well. But you want to try to get some of these guys from these higher total games. Kirk's 5,100. Flowers is only 5,000. So Flowers is one of those guys down there. If you need some salary relief doing that. And then once you get down to like, and JSN too, because JSN's 4,500. So he's one. And if you're going to take a chance on Chiefs wide receiver, it could be MVS. MVS is 4,500. I think he's probably the one that, gets the most field time and probably has the most trust with Mahomes right now. So he'd be another one to maybe sneak in there if you're looking for salary relief. Running back wise, if you're looking under $6,000, Kenneth Walker at 58. If you think that game's going to be different, if you want to go like the Seahawks, maybe get the lead and then they run the ball with Walker and then have a Goff, Laporta, St. Brown stack, that would work. Algiers 5,500 if you want to take a chance on him over Bijan, because I think they're still going to get about the same amount of workload. I like Rashad White at 5,500 as well. Gus Edwards is 5,300. So you could, and Josh Kelly's at $5,000. So Josh Kelly's probably going to be the most popular player. So that's the one thing you watch out for. Sometimes it's good to eat the chalk and play the most popular guy, because like he goes off. Like if you told me Tyreek Hill was like 30% owned last week, I still would have put him in, because I just knew he could take the top off and he could win a slate for you. I don't know if Joshua Kelly has that ability, even though I know he's going to get a ton of carries. That team still likes to pass, and the Titans defense is pretty good. So I don't know if I'd eat the $5,000 Joshua Kelly chalk as I think it will be, because I think he's just kind of limited on what his ceiling is. So other than that, you're not getting any real values down low. Maybe a Jerick McKinnon at 4,600 because he can play in the passing game. They like to throw to him once it gets inside the 10. So those are the kind of things. But the games I'm really looking at are Seattle, Detroit. I like the Jacksonville, Kansas City game. I think everyone's going to be on that. And then I don't mind putting a Buffalo stack and not even running it back with anybody with the Rams. And then I think a sneaky game is that Chicago Tampa Bay game. I think that could be kind of sneaky because there's playmakers on that, and that game could shoot out, and it's not expected to. So those are the kind of games you want to look at when you're playing DFS, especially for like a secondary stack, or just to get a little different. Maybe make a main stack, like if you did a Justin Fields, DJ Moore, and then run it back with Rashad White and either Godwin or Evans. I think it's going to be so different than most of them. And then put your secondary stack as either that Seattle Detroit game, or you could probably then throw in Kelsey and Ridley, and you should be able to get them in as well. So I'll probably tweet out later on this week once I start looking at what lineup. I'll put one entry lineup in, what I ended up doing on my Twitter or my X post now. So that's all I have for tonight. Hope it was informative for you. I know it was a little bit lengthy, just going through the games and stuff. But I just like talking through some of these games to really kind of look at, okay, what's this game environment going to be like? Let's look at some of the pieces of it, and then when you're making your choices that you have to make that aren't your studs, like, hey, do I want to put Sky Moore in, or do I want to put a Josh Reynolds in? Kind of talking that through, looking at that kind of stuff. So I like looking at the Vegas totals just because they're not always right, but they are a lot right. So those are the kind of games I'm like, okay, what games are going to be high scoring, and kind of get pieces from that on your leagues. And then especially with DFS is what I look at. So that is what I have for tonight. I appreciate you guys listening in. And if I can find where this thing is, here we go. Put it on there. Thanks a lot, guys, for listening. Follow us on X. I am at Chad Ochorinco. Jeff is at FitHappens. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment for us. Leave any kind of start-sit questions you have, and then catch us on anywhere you can find your Apple Android podcast. Have a good one.